Good morning, President Scott, distinguished faculty, staff, and students, and to our guest speaker, Chief Judge Ingrid Driskell. Welcome to our annual Ethics Awareness Week event. My name is Catherine Kiki Varacas, and I have the honor of serving as the Chief Audit Officer here at Albany State University. I want to begin with a question. Who out in the audience can tell me when Ethics Awareness Week really is? Anyone? The truth is, it's every week of the year, all 52 weeks, all 365 days. Ethical leadership and sound decision-making are not limited to a single moment. They are part of who we are and what we stand for each day. However, our Chancellor, Purdue, has designated November 3rd through the 9th as Ethics Awareness Week for the University System of Georgia and its 26 institutions. This week is set aside to reaffirm our commitment to the USG core values of excellence, accountability, respect, and integrity. Ethics Awareness Week reminds us that integrity is about consistency of character. It is our North Star. It shapes the way we lead, collaborate, and serve both our students and one another. Here at Albany State University, we are intentional about cultivating a culture rooted in integrity, accountability, transparency, and respect. As faculty and staff, we embody these principles daily through our leadership, our teaching, and our engagement with students and the broader community. This week allows each of us to reflect on our shared responsibility to act with purpose, to lead with fairness, and to serve with excellence in all that we do. At ASU, ethics is more than a set of guidelines. It is a standard of conduct and a way of life. It influences our decisions, our relationships, and our stewardship of the resources entrusted to our care. Throughout this week, we will revisit the USG core values, which are far more than inspirational or aspirational ideals. They are the foundation upon which we sustain trust, uphold transparency, and advance the mission of this great institution. Of these values, integrity remains the cornerstone of ethical leadership. It requires us to act with honesty, fairness, and respect, whether or not someone is watching. When we lead with integrity, we build confidence within our community, serving as a lasting example for our students to emulate. So as we navigate through this week of awareness and reflection, let us renew our shared commitment to a culture that values fairness and responsibility. Together, we can ensure that our decisions and actions consistently reflects the USG core values and strengthens Albany State University's positive impact. At ASU, our goal is simple, yet powerful. It is to prioritize our students in every decision we make. As Chancellor Purdue reminds us, and I quote, As leaders within the university system of Georgia, we share a collective commitment to the highest standards of accountability and transparency across all our campuses, end quote. Therefore, let us continue to uphold these standards with purpose, integrity, and intentionality, not only in our words, but through our actions and the choices we make daily. Because in the end, integrity is the legacy we wish to leave. At this time, I have the pleasure of welcoming the leader of this great institution, our president, Dr. Robert Scott, to bring remarks for our Ethics Awareness Week event. Following President Scott, we will hear from Ms. Audrey Driskell, Auditor 1 in the Office of Internal Audits, who will introduce our guest speaker. The very next voice you will hear after Ms. Driskell will be that of our distinguished speaker, Chief Judge Ingrid Driskell. Thank you.
Good morning, Golden Rams. It is a pleasure to be here, and I am super excited to see a full room. And a full room that is a mixture of faculty, staff, some alum, some guests. It speaks to the value of this conversation in ethics across our university. So it's my privilege to join you as we recognize Ethics Awareness Week here at Albany State University. And again, I'd like to begin by thanking each of you for taking this time to reflect, to learn, and in many cases, recommit to the values that define who we are as a university community. And recommit for some, and for others, perhaps it is to commit for the first time. And the reason I say that is because I'm exposed to a lot as Mr. President, right? I'm exposed to a lot. I get to see a lot. I get to hear a lot. And I think that as a university, we are both in an era of recommitting and for some of us, committing, right? And that's an important distinction. I'm especially honored to welcome our distinguished guest speaker and alumna, Chief Judge Ingrid Driskell. Judge Driskell's service and her steadfast commitment to justice and integrity reflects the very principles we lift up this week. Judge, thank you for joining us and for modeling what it means to lead with courage, fairness, and accountability. This week, we pause to remind ourselves that ethics is not only about compliance and policy, it's about character. It's about who we are choosing to be. Ethics is a choice. We can have a week-long conversation. We can have all the panel discussions, eat all the sandwiches and fruit that you want in the back of the room. And at the end of it, ethics is a choice. It's a choice. And I hope that the number of people in this room reflects how important that we collectively see this choice that we need to make as a university. At Albany State University, ethics guides how we teach. It should guide how we learn. It should guide how we treat one another, both when we're physically together, in person, when we are online, and when we're hidden by the secrecy of social media. Ethics should be our guiding North Star in all of those situations. It's about who we are when no one is watching. Our university values excellence. It values respect, accountability, and integrity, and it must be demonstrated through our actions every day. These values connect us to a deeper purpose, one rooted in the same courage and resilience that shaped Albany State through generations of challenge and triumph. As an HBCU with a legacy born of faith, justice, and perseverance, Our ethical responsibility extends far beyond our campus. It shapes how we serve our community, our region, and our state. As president, I am committed to creating a culture of psychological safety where every student, every faculty, every member of the staff feels empowered to speak up, to question, and to learn without fear. That's my job. This culture of honesty and openness is how we build trust and strengthen our community. So today, I invite you to reflect on a couple of points. What does integrity look like in your daily work? How can you make our university even stronger through ethical leadership? Each of us play a role in shaping the future of Albany State University, and that future depends on our willingness to lead with integrity, respect, and purpose. As we continue this week, let us remember that our history was built on this ethical courage and moral conviction, and our future, our unsinkable future, depends on the same principles guiding every decision we make. Thank you again to our speaker to come, Chief Judge Driskell, and thank you to Chief Audit Officer Kikavaris for setting this up every year. I appreciate it. It is a conversation that cannot be missed. May the rest of the week inspire you to lead with integrity, compassion, and accountability. Again, not just this week, but throughout every day of our time here at Albany State. And I'll take a bit of presidential, what do you call it? I can do what I want to do. Privilege, thank you. Ethics is not an option here. So I'm off script. That's going to be very clear. It is not an option here at Albany State University. And 6 months into my job, I see many of us taking ethics as an option. That will not happen moving forward. So I'm depending on you, this room, to be champions of what an ethical culture looks like and feels like, and really embrace the work that's required for us moving this forward. Fair? Fair. So we've all said it, right? Good. All right, thank you very much. And I think who's coming up now? The introduction, right? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am pleased today to introduce the guest speaker, Chief Judge Ingrid Driskell. Judge Ingrid Driskell graduated summa cum laude from Albany State College in 1990 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science. She attended Emory University School of Law and graduated with a Juris Doctorate degree in 1993. She served as an assistant public defender in Fulton County, Atlanta, Georgia from 1993 to 1996. She moved back home to Albany, Georgia in 1998 and began her legal career as a sole practitioner handling both civil and criminal cases in state and federal court. From 2002 until 2003, she served as appointed solicitor for the Albany Municipal Court. She also served by appointment as solicitor for the Lee County Probate Court from 2004 until 2006. In 2003, she was appointed as the public defender for the Albany Municipal Court for the City of Albany from 2014 until 2019. She served as a Special Assistant Attorney General for the Department of Law, representing Dougherty County Division of Family and Children Services. In November of 2019, she was sworn in as Associate Judge of the Dougherty County Juvenile Court, and she served in that capacity until January 28, 2025. On January 29, 2025, Judge Driskell was appointed Chief Judge of Albany Municipal Court by the Mayor and Board of Commissioners. On August 5, 2025, she was appointed as Interim Director of the Dougherty County Law Library, Southwest Georgia Legal Self-Help Center. Currently back in private practice, Judge Driskell handles criminal defense and family matters in Southwest Georgia. She is a member of the Dougherty County Circuit Bar Association and a member of the Board of Trustees for the Dougherty Judicial Circuit Mediation Program. She is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and a member of Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church in Albany, Georgia. So please, everyone, let's give a warm welcome to my sister, Judge Ingrid Driskell.
Good morning to you, Albany State University. Esteemed President Dr. Robert Scott, faculty, staff, administration, and students, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to stand before you today as your guest speaker for Ethics Awareness Week. 35 years ago, I graduated from this distinguished institution with a degree in hand and a dream to fulfill. Thank you, Albany State, for your part in preparing me to fulfill that dream. I feel honored to be here today. And it is indeed an honor that you all chose my baby sister to introduce me. And yes, even at this age, she still is my baby sister, even if it is by 7 minutes. Since I was initially contacted about being your speaker, first by Audrey and then Ms. Catherine Kay, and that's what I'm going to call her because I do not want to butcher her name, I've pondered what would be an interesting topic for discussion as I share my thoughts regarding ethics. Last Monday, I finally decided on a topic: ethical considerations and obligations for lawyers and judges in public spaces and on social media. And certainly the events of last week, if any of you were following what was going on down in Doherty Superior Court and the aftermath, solidified in my mind that I had indeed chosen the perfect topic for today's discussion. How is the word ethics defined? I perused the internet for about a week just to arrive at the most precise and understanding definition of ethics for the purposes of my presentation today. And ultimately, I discovered published articles from the British Broadcasting Company, the BBC, which most accurately describe the term. At its simplest, ethics is a system of moral principles which affect how people make decisions and lead their lives. Ethics are the guiding principles which help the individual or the group to decide what is good or what is bad. Ethics is not only about the morality of particular courses of action, but it's also about the goodness of individuals and what it means to live a good life. At the heart of ethics is a concern about something or someone other than ourselves and our own desires and self-interest. So when we say that a person thinks or behaves ethically, what we are saying is that that person is giving at least some thought to something or someone beyond themselves. Ethics covers the following dilemmas that we all face: how to live a good life, our rights and responsibilities as citizens, the language of right and wrong, and moral decisions, what is good and what is bad. There is a key difference in ethical duties for lawyers and for judges, and the primary ethical distinction lies in the role. Lawyers are partisans within the legal system, meaning that we represent one party on a particular side of a dispute. Lawyers are ethically obligated to zealously represent their clients' interests at all times. Judges, on the other hand, must be impartial and independent arbiters. Their decisions must be based on the law and the evidence presented without favor. I will first discuss ethical considerations and obligations for lawyers in public spaces and on social media. A lawyer, as a member of the legal profession, is a representative of clients, an officer of the legal system, and a public citizen having special responsibility for the quality of justice. As advocates and officers of the court, lawyers are primarily governed by a code of professional conduct. The Georgia Rules of Professional Conduct outline the ethical standards here in Georgia. These rules help define a lawyer's obligations to clients, to the judicial system, and to the public. As Georgia lawyers, we are bound by strict rules of ethics in all of our professional challenges. Here are some key aspects of the Georgia Rules of Professional Conduct. The first is confidentiality. I think most people refer to it as attorney-client privilege. What this means is that lawyers must protect client information gained during the professional relationship, with certain limited exceptions. One of those exceptions is to prevent harm or substantial financial loss to someone due to a client's criminal conduct or third-party criminal conduct, which is clearly in violation of the law. In other words, if I'm representing someone and they communicate to me their intention to go out and harm someone or steal someone's pension, this is not information that's protected by attorney-client privilege. This exception only relates to future conduct, not the conduct for which the lawyer has already been retained. Candor toward the tribunal. Lawyers cannot offer evidence they know to be false and must take remedial measures if they discover evidence they previously offered is false. For instance, I've already talked to my client. I know the story because he's told me over and over and over again what happened. The client is now testifying in a trial or a hearing, and he suddenly says something completely different from what he's told me repeatedly. Now, this puts me in a particularly difficult situation. Client confidentiality, which I just discussed. Now we have candor toward the tribunal. By show of hands, how many of you believe that client confidentiality would be the most important ethical consideration for me in this situation? Just got one hand. Two. How many believe that candor toward the tribunal would be most important? You're absolutely right. An attorney must take remedial measures to cure the presentation of false evidence, and depending on the circumstances, that could mean that I would have to withdraw from the case. Conflict of interest. A lawyer cannot represent a client if the representation will be directly adverse to another client, or if there is a significant risk that the lawyer's personal interests or duties to another client, a former client, or a third party will materially limit the representation. Here's an example. Someone comes to me and wants me to represent them on an armed robbery case. In meeting with them, I learned that the alleged victim of that armed robbery is a former client of mine. That's a direct conflict of interest. Can't handle that case. Same scenario. Someone wants my representation on an armed robbery case, and the alleged victim is the family member of one of my friends. Does this create a conflict of interest such that I cannot ethically get involved in the case? The answer is it depends. It depends on how close I am to that friend and if the friendship would make it difficult for me to zealously defend that client. Another aspect of the Georgia Rules of Professional Conduct deals with client communication. It states that a lawyer must keep a client reasonably informed about the status of their case and promptly respond to requests for information. Now, I have a contract with the Public Defender's Office. I've been representing indigent defendants since before I graduated from law school. I actually practiced under the Third Year Practice Act. So indigent defendants are those people who cannot afford to hire their own attorneys, so they receive court-appointed attorneys. Now, the ones that I have, especially the ones still incarcerated in the Dougherty County Jail, they truly do not understand the meaning of reasonably informed. They are constantly calling, having family members calling to check on the status of their cases, sending letters, sometimes 2 or 3 at a time, and collect calls from the jail. Oh my goodness. Now, I do make a concerted effort to maintain communication with those clients, at least twice a month, just to let them know I'm still here, I'm still working on your case. Because the sad thing is that many of them have no one else, and I'm the only person they have to talk to, so I try to give them a little bit more grace. Indigent defendants don't really have resources, and I've heard it over the years. The public defender works for the state, he works for the district attorney. The public defender is not a real lawyer. That's the one that really used to get me. My objective in choosing to handle indigent cases over the years was to change the standard. I believe that those among us who have the least amount of resources are entitled to the same representation as those that have the most. I believe that was a part of the reason I became an attorney. I tell people all the time, I'm going to provide you the same representation as I would provide to someone who actually paid me. After all, the standard of representation that I provide to clients is a reflection on me. I have an ethical obligation to zealously represent anyone who stands next to me, and I always do so to the best of my abilities. One final ethical obligation of a lawyer is honesty. A lawyer must not engage in conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation. Now, I'm sure that some of you are trying to hold in your chuckles at my mention of this last consideration. I mean, I've heard all the jokes, I get it. Lawyers have a reputation of being dishonest. Your job as a lawyer is to say and do whatever you have to do to get your client off. And this is the one that really gets me. How do you sleep at night knowing that you and your actions helped a guilty person go free? And the statement always comes with some undertones hinting that I must have engaged in some sort of dishonest behavior to get them off. The 1769 doctrine by William Blackstone, he stated that it is better that 10 guilty persons go free than that one innocent person be convicted. An 1895 United States Supreme Court case stated, it is better to let the crime of a guilty person go unpunished than to condemn the innocent. And Benjamin Franklin stated, it is better 100 guilty persons should escape than one innocent person should suffer. Now, my answer to that question, how do you sleep at night knowing that your actions help a guilty person go free, doesn't rest so much on the principles espoused by the Supreme Court or the Blackstone principle or even Benjamin Franklin. My response to that question is usually twofold. First, the 6th and the 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution protects the rights of criminal defendants, including the right to a speedy and public trial, an impartial jury, and legal counsel. This is my chosen profession, and I have an ethical duty and obligation to ensure that a client's rights are protected. And when the justice system actually works the way it is supposed to work, we can all usually rest well at night with the outcome. Sadly, however, the system is imperfect, and it doesn't always work the way it should. And many times, it's because of unethical players within the system. Secondly, when presented with that question, how do you sleep at night knowing that you and your actions helped a guilty person go free? The answer which I give, which is usually met with silence and sometimes a bunch of stuttering, is simply this. How do you know the person is guilty? Too many times, people form opinions, especially as it relates to criminal cases, not because they sat through a trial and heard the evidence and listened to witness testimony, but rather because of what the street committee said, rumors and gossip, and yes, what appears on social media. Now I ask you, is there anything ethical about that? How does social media create ethical issues for lawyers? Social media has created a court of public opinion where cases are discussed and judged outside of the formal judicial process. This can create immense public pressure that may influence the legal system. The spread of misinformation and conspiracy theories on social media can erode public trust in the judiciary. And how a lawyer chooses to navigate these issues, particularly on social media, impacts how citizens on a whole view the legal system. One issue with regard to lawyers and social media relates to client confidentiality. Lawyers must not share any confidential client information online, even inadvertently. Now, sometimes lawyers kind of get caught up in the fame of themselves, the attention they receive on social media, particularly if they're involved in a salacious case that everybody's talking about. They may respond to posts or questions posed on someone's page, and in the process, they may respond in a way that violates client confidentiality. My answer to this problem is simply stay off social media until your case has been resolved. And even then, you have to be careful about what you post. Another ethical issue deals with communication with parties. An attorney cannot contact a person they know is already represented by counsel through social media without permission. An example, an attorney may be trying to resolve a divorce case or a lawsuit, and they can't get in touch with the opposing counsel. Maybe the counsel's trying to drag it out to build up more attorney's fees. Unfortunately, some lawyers do that. So they happen to reach out to the other litigant on social media. Can't do that. Even sending a Facebook message that says, tell your lawyer to contact me. That's still impermissible. The third ethical issue relates to witness and juror contact. Lawyers cannot interact with witnesses or jurors online in any way that could be perceived as an attempt to influence them. Example number one, lawyer happens to be scrolling on social media, and you notice someone who's on your jury panel for the week or a witness in the case. And that person posts something on social media like this: everyone have a great day on purpose. If you believe in the power of prayer, type amen. Even if this sentiment is on the attorney's heart at that very moment, a lawyer has to resist the urge to like, love, or share that post. Why? Because that gesture, that simple gesture, could be perceived as an attempt by the lawyer to influence either the juror or the witness by showing them, hey, I feel just the way you do. And that simple act might influence the juror or the witness and cause them to lend more credence to what the lawyer says in court or the arguments they make. Example number two, and it's quite fitting for this week in particular. Attorney is scrolling on social media, the same thing. They happen to notice someone on the jury panel or a witness in the case, and that person posts the following: friends don't let other friends go to Fort Valley. Now, sure, it's Fountain City Classic Week, and it's fun. It's lighthearted humor. I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, what's the problem with liking or even sharing or laughing at the post, especially if the lawyer actually attended Albany State as I did? It's the same concern, because a comment on the post could be perceived as an attempt to influence either the juror or the witness. Fourth ethical issue relates to truthfulness. All statements made online, especially in advertising, must be truthful and not misleading. And this is funny to me, because I've seen attorneys that I know, they post on social media and they have advertisements, the best lawyer in the city, hands down. I was like, well, that's quite subjective, and you better hope that one of your disgruntled clients doesn't comment. But you know, you're supposed to be truthful in all of your advertising. Finally, lawyers have a duty to understand how social media works and how it impacts a client's case. So if an attorney creates a post referencing a client or even responds to a like or a post about that client, and that interaction on social media has a resulting negative impact on the client, it won't do that attorney any bit of good to argue, I didn't know that my remark was public. I thought it was a private comment, or that's not what I meant. That would not likely insulate the attorney from having to respond to an ethical complaint which would follow. Now I want to talk briefly about ethical considerations and obligations for judges in public spaces and social media. Judges must have integrity and strong work ethic, approaching their role with dedication and conscientiousness. They must be honest and maintain public trust through their professional conduct. Qualities like patience, dignity, and courtesy are crucial when dealing with litigants, witnesses, and lawyers. Socrates said it best when discussing the role of judges. 4 things belong to a judge: to hear courteously, to answer wisely, to consider soberly, and to decide impartially. I also believe that there are other important characteristics of a good judge: to be respectful to all parties involved, to be patient. In fact, St. Augustine coined the phrase, patience is a companion of wisdom. Just because you can say something as a judge doesn't mean that you should. It is truly unfortunate that many people who wear the black robe like I do and sit behind that bench sometimes forget their humanity. Now, I've been a judge now for 6 years, but I've been a practicing attorney for over 30 years. I've experienced the good and the bad when it pertains to some members of the judiciary. Some have been rude, disrespectful, dismissive, and insensitive. The term coined by attorneys to explain this phenomenon is robitis, when a judge sometimes gets so full of himself and his accomplishments that he sometimes forgets common courtesy. Each day I have the privilege to serve as a judge. I do so with the mindset that each person who comes before me is deserving of respect, courtesy, and patience. I cannot allow a bad morning to dictate how I respond to someone who appears in my court. I was talking to my daughter the other day. She's 24 years old, and I believe she has finally accepted the fact that I actually may know more than she does at this time. But we were discussing friendships and how you deal with people whom you considered friends and those friends have disappointed you. It is so easy to develop a rigid manner of dealing with people by saying, well, I'm just going to start treating them the way they treat me. That's what she said. I replied, try living by the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It really helps. And as long as you do that, then you'll be fine. And you know what she said? She said, I'll just call this the platinum rule. Do unto others the way they do unto you. So I'm still working on her. The reason I mention the golden rule, because in my opinion, this rule should guide how judges interact with people daily. Be respectful, because you want people to be respectful to you. Considerate, understanding, and patient. This, I believe, is the bare minimum. Judges are bound by a code of judicial ethics designed to maintain public trust in the judiciary. In Georgia, we are governed by the Georgia Code of Judicial Conduct, the preamble of which starts like so. Our legal system is based on the principle that an independent, fair, and competent judiciary will interpret and apply the laws that govern us. The role of the judiciary is central to American concepts of justice and the rule of law. Every judge should strive to maintain the dignity appropriate to the judicial office. Judges should avoid both impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in their professional and personal lives. They should at all times exhibit behavior that ensures the greatest possible public confidence in their independence, impartiality, integrity, and competence. The first ethical consideration I want to briefly talk about is impartiality and independence. Judges must remain neutral, free, and free from bias or external pressures such as political, social, or financial influences. We cannot and should not be influenced by public opinion in any decisions we make. As a judge, I know I won't be able to please everybody, particularly when parties are at odds in a dispute. Nevertheless, I honestly believe that as long as a judge follows the law and applies it fairly and evenly to the situation and to everyone that appears before the court, that is all that anyone could ever expect. But there has to be fair application of the law to everyone, regardless of who they are, regardless of who represents them, or how much money or influence the person may have. I mean, word gets around, especially in a small town like Albany. If a judge shows favor or gives preferential treatment to litigants based on who they are and who they know, or issues rulings which have the impact of treating people differently due to their perceived station in life, such behavior erodes the community's trust in the judicial system as a whole. Avoiding impropriety. To preserve public confidence, a judge must not only be impartial, but must also avoid the appearance of impropriety in both personal and professional activities. A judge must expect to be the subject of constant public scrutiny and accept freely and willingly any restrictions that might be viewed as burdensome by the ordinary citizen. Now, last week, I had to make the conscious decision not to go into the courtroom down in Doherty Superior Court where the trial was being held. My good friend and colleague, Julius Collins, was actually the attorney on the case. Julius is also an alum of Albany State. But I didn't go in there to talk to him because I am a judge in Albany. And I didn't want to run into the situation that a juror that I may have known saw me speaking with Mr. Collins about the case. That may have been interpreted, perhaps Judge Driskell believes in the defense. I can't show that. I can't show any bias. This would have raised ethical concerns, and I certainly didn't want to have to deal with that. So I had to wait and talk to him outside of the courtroom after all the jurors had left. Conflict of interest. A judge must disqualify themselves from any case where their impartiality could be reasonably questioned due to personal bias, financial interest, or prior involvement. Now, that's self-explanatory. Anytime someone comes before me that I may know, have previous dealings with, if I'm not certain and I'm wondering how other people may perceive it, I'll generally put it on the record and let them know what the situation is. Let them know what type of relationship it is. Because as a lawyer and judge in my hometown of Albany, I know a whole lot of people. And if I recuse myself from every case because it's someone I know my kids know people, parents know me because my kids played sports with their children, I can't disqualify myself from everything. But most of the time when people know of the nature of the relationship, it's not an issue. Only in those cases where my impartiality could reasonably be questioned would I have an ethical responsibility to recuse myself due to a conflict of interest. Fourth thing, ex parte communications. Now, judges are prohibited from having communications about a case with one party outside the presence of the other parties and their lawyers. Now, this applies to both civil and criminal cases. Now, this can pose a problem many times because judges and lawyers, we're colleagues. We know each other. We're friends. Sometimes the line may become blurred, and it's incumbent upon the judge to define those lines. It's important to set boundaries, especially when the judge presiding over the case is friendly with the defense attorney, or the prosecuting attorney, or the plaintiff's attorney. So if that means that we have to put our standing lunch meeting that we have on every Wednesday on hold until after this case is done, sometimes you have to do that, because imagine judge is out having lunch with one attorney and that other attorney happens to come in. It's just not a good look. Diligence and competence. A judge is expected to be well prepared, manage court proceedings efficiently, and remain current with legal developments. I mean, really, who wants to have a judge presiding over that case who appears to be ill-prepared and doesn't know what's going on in the case? That'd be kind of scary. So that's one of the things that judges have to do. Lastly, extrajudicial activities. While judges may participate in civic and educational activities, they must not engage in any activity that reflects adversely on their impartiality or interferes with their official duties. Political activity. The rules are strict. I may have wonderful friends that are running for political office. Can't put a yard sign. Can't have a bumper sticker. Just can't do it. How social media may create ethical issues for judges. Social media does allow judges to stay informed, engage with their communities, and share important court updates. However, it can also pose risks. A single post, like, or comment can be misinterpreted and lead to ethical concerns. Judges must navigate these platforms with caution to uphold judicial integrity. The first ethical consideration is impartiality. A judge's online activities such as liking political figures or sharing legal opinions can create the appearance of bias or influence. Common pitfalls include liking or commenting on politically charged posts or making public comments. We've all seen those police and citizen encounters that go viral. We see part of the video, we wonder what happens. Cases like Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Sandra Bland, a judge cannot publicly comment on any of those cases without risk of sanctions. Why? Because commenting on controversial issues can create the appearance of bias, even if intended as a personal opinion. It doesn't matter that it's something that's happening clear across the country. We just can't do it. Even posts that are meant for family and friends can lead to ethical violations if they suggest bias or favoritism. So Audra always likes to send stuff and tag me and stuff. I finally had to change my settings so I could review it first. I was like, I can't have that on my page. So bottom line, judges have to exercise extreme caution to maintain their neutrality as required by the judicial codes of conduct. Abuse of prestige. Judges cannot use their judicial title or their office to promote personal or economic interests on social media. This includes endorsing products, businesses, or charities. Posting about charitable donations can be interpreted as soliciting contributions for somebody else. Third ethical consideration, ex parte communication. Communicating with attorneys, witnesses, or parties online about a pending case on social media is strictly prohibited and can lead to discipline. And I did find 2 instances of judges, not in this state, being disciplined. A Kansas judge was disciplined for endorsing businesses and Facebook posts. And in Nevada, a judge was using Instagram and TikTok videos of himself presiding over court to promote his private law practice. You can't do that either. So think before posting. You always have to consider how a post could be perceived by the public. So in closing, I view the Georgia Code of Judicial Conduct and the Georgia Rules of Professional Conduct as a roadmap by which to lead my life. I am not perfect. I make mistakes just like everyone else does. However, I recognize that because of the career choice I made, I must govern myself differently than I used to, because one wrong move or misstep could be detrimental to my career as a lawyer and a judge. And I have to say, I actually love what I do. You know, trial lawyers often coin phrases that they use which help them connect with a trial during closing arguments. They find what works for them, and then they stick to it. It's their way of persuading the jury to see their perspective. The one I found that resonates well with jurors I've had to deal with is this. I say something like, if during the course of this trial I have said or done anything to offend you or cause you concern, please charge it to my heart. Charge it to my head, not my heart. It's been a while since I tried a case, but I used to use that all the time, and it just went over well. They were like, yeah, so I tell them, charge it to my head, don't charge it to my heart. Now, I have an ethical dilemma today that I hope you can help me with. I am a proud graduate of Albany State. I'm a Ram. My kids attended homecoming with me when they were still in strollers. I've considered the buzz phrases I've discussed with you this morning, like bias, avoiding the appearance of impropriety, conflict of interest, and ex parte communications. I'll be the first to admit, I certainly have a bias. And I can't even begin to avoid the appearance of impropriety. Conflict of interest, definitely have one there. And with regard to ex parte communications, they have most certainly been ongoing and nonstop. However, after sincere reflection regarding my ethical duties, I think I'll be okay with this. And I also believe that the State Bar of Georgia and the Judicial Qualifications Commission will also give me a pass. After all, he is my son. And he does wear number 25. And the color of his jersey is blue and gold. I apologize in advance if this offends any of you, but you're gonna have to charge this one to my heart. Are y'all gonna revoke my Ram card? Now, I will say, I put ASU on the sleeve. Thank you. I tell you, there are certain, you know your state representative? Yeah. That's the easiest way to find out about new statutes that may be coming down the pipe in the state of Georgia. I know with lawyers, and I'm a lawyer and a judge, so I have to go to continuing legal education programs twice a year to stay well versed. And most of the times, the persons who are over those programs send us monthly updates to let us know when the law changes. Because, I mean, like I said, I just started practicing law again in February, so I've been a judge. So there was a whole lot that had changed with regard to Superior Court cases that I didn't know because I was down in juvenile court. And it was a little different. But yeah, state representatives, let's see. I'm gonna look to see, because it is so much going on, and the law keeps changing, and if you're not connected, you wouldn't know about it. It is, and I mean, I tell my kids, stay off social media, and I certainly tell other lawyers and judges, stay off social media unless you're posting fun stuff. pictures about your kids, but social media gets people in a whole lot of trouble. So I can't watch too much. When it starts becoming too deep and too controversial, I just find something else to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? If you know of anyone that cannot afford to hire an attorney and they may have a civil matter, send them down to the Law Library Legal Self-Help Center. It's on the first floor of the Dougherty County Courthouse. I was appointed interim director. I'm trying to get things back on track. And what we do is help people navigate the legal forms. Some things are easy to do. Some things are a little more difficult, but if you have them come down there, no matter what it is, if I don't know the answer, I'll find the answer. I have a couple of people I said, well, give me a couple of weeks and come back. I mean, I have never seen so many people just influxing the courthouse that need legal help. I had no idea, but now I know. So if you know anybody that needs some assistance, have them come down there. All right.
You want me to go? Okay. Thank you, Chief Judge Driskell, for your inspiring and insightful words. We're grateful for the wisdom and encouragement you've shared with us today and for so graciously accepting our invitation to serve as our guest speaker. On behalf of President Scott, the faculty, staff, and students of your alma mater, Albany State University, we are honored to present you with this token of our appreciation for your presence and powerful message today. Thank you.
Again, let's give Chief Judge Ingrid Driskell another round of applause. We will now transition to the presentation of our Shining Ram Champion of Ethics Awards. Our office received numerous nominations for both faculty and staff members, a true testament of the many shining rams we have here at Albany State University. Each nomination reflected stories of integrity, dedication, and ethical leadership across our campus community. So I want to sincerely thank everyone who took the time to nominate a colleague, co-worker, and to express my appreciation to the selection committee for their thoughtful deliberation and the difficult task of choosing this year's honoree. So, President Scott, faculty, staff, and students, it is my honor to present the Shining Ram Champion of Ethics Award, Staff Award to Miss Teresa Fleming, Certification Officer in the School of Education. Is she here? In her role, Ms. Fleming manages highly sensitive student information with integrity, professionalism, and care. When faced with difficult situations, she always acts ethically, addressing issues privately, guiding students with compassion, and ensuring fairness in everything. She goes above and beyond to support our teachers, teacher candidates, patiently guiding them through certification requirements, completing the ethics exam and the GACE test. Even when challenges arises, her positivity and encouragement inspire students to persevere and succeed. Ms. Fleming's commitment to integrity, accountability, respect, and excellence truly embodies the spirit of Albany State University. She is a shining example of ethical leadership and service. Join me in congratulating Ms. Teresa Fleming. Next, again, President Scott, faculty, staff, and students. It is my honor to present the Shining Ram Champion of Ethics Faculty Award to Dr. D.V. Akella, Chair of the School of Business and Professor of Management in the College of Business Education and Professional Studies. Dr. Akella exemplifies integrity, fairness, and ethical leadership in every aspect of her work. She leads by example, demonstrating accountability through her strong work ethic and consistent presence, arriving early and remaining engaged long after the day ends. She fosters a culture of collaboration and inclusiveness with all faculty members. When leadership is needed, she steps forward willingly, never assigning responsibility she isn't prepared to share in herself. Dr. Keller exemplifies humility by acknowledging and correcting errors transparently, promoting equity, and treating every colleague with respect and impartiality. With demonstrated integrity, professionalism, and genuine care for others, Dr. Keller has built trust, inspired her colleagues, and set a powerful example of ethical decision-making and accountability. Through her commitment to integrity, accountability, respect, and excellence, she is a shining example of ethical leadership and service. Join me in congratulating Dr. Keller. I just wanted to touch on one other topic that I would be remiss if I did not take a moment to briefly speak about the ethics line, also known as the hotline. The University System of Georgia, along with all 26 of its institutions, maintains a dedicated ethics hotline to ensure accountability and transparency across the system. Each institution has an ethics line coordinator responsible for managing, investigating, and resolving all reported concerns. Here at Albany State University, I currently serve as the ethics coordinator, supported by a team, the Ethics Triage Committee, which includes Crystal James, our Chief Legal Officer. Crystal, stand, let him see you. And Dr. Wooten, our Vice President of Finance and Administration, who's currently at a conference. So what is the purpose of the ethics line? What was it designed to do? It was designed to report fraud, waste, abuse, and policy violations. Fraud, waste, abuse, and policy violation. The University System of Georgia strongly encourages a speak-up culture, one where every member of our community feels empowered to do the right thing and report on ethical behavior without fear. It's also important to clarify what the ethics line is not. It is not intended for general employee relations matters unless they involve fraud, waste, abuse, or policy violation. Whenever possible, such concerns should be addressed through your supervisory chain of command. All ethics lines reports, whether you believe it or not, they're anonymous, and they are submitted through a third-party vendor to protect confidentiality. Each of you would see there's a flyer on the table. You can report a concern in one of four ways: by email through either the ASU or the Board of Regents link, and they're on the front homepage for each institution, or by telephone using the ASU or Board of Regents designated numbers. You'll find this information, like I said, on the flyer, and there's also a card in your event bag. Finally, I want to emphasize that the University System of Georgia strictly prohibits retaliation against anyone who reports wrongdoing in good faith. There is a formal non-retaliation policy in place to protect reporters. For those interested in learning more, the trivia question today was actually provided details around this topic. So again, what is the hotline for? Fraud, waste, and abuse. What do we not want you to use it for? Employee relations reminder that should go up through your supervisors. So at this time, we're going to close out, and I'm going to ask Yamasi to come and give closing remarks.
Thank you so much. I want to thank Chief Catherine Kiki-Gavaris for spearheading planning this event. So let's all give her a round of applause for spearheading our event today. We want to thank each of you for your enthusiasm and participation today as we continue to celebrate our ethical culture here at Albany State University. Why is this important? To reiterate what you've heard thus far, the University System of Georgia mission demands integrity and good judgment. And all of this while complying with USG policy and state and federal laws. So each of us must ensure that our ethical values are aligned across the system. We thank you and extend our gratitude for all you do to ensure that alignment is indeed in place such that we can make an ethical culture here on our campus. Judge Driskell shared absolute gems with us today. So take with you today and moving forward the importance of impartiality in your engagement and your thoughts of others beyond yourself in your ethical considerations. It has been an honor to have you with us, Judge Driskell, so thank you again. Dr. Scott, thank you for helping us to underscore the importance of an ethical culture and highlighting these very deserving stars, our shining rams. In addition to today's events, we've had notable high points so far. You've enjoyed the kickoff video from the USG on Friday. You've heard the encouraging video message from our president on yesterday. The celebratory and informative video message from ASU's Staff Council Chair, Rachel Lawrence, just ahead of our event today. You've competed in the email trivia contest, and it's only Tuesday. So of course, there's more to come. Remember to be watchful of the daily email trivia questions through Friday. And be sure to join us on the USG schedule of events. Visit usg.edu for that schedule that is open to all of us to participate. Also, we want to make certain that we join our very own President Scott as he participates on an ethics best practice panel along with other distinguished panelists. The topic is ethics best practices. The theme, the compliance catalyst, leadership that shapes culture. There is indeed a link to register for this online event. This event is for faculty and staff. So be certain to watch out again for your ethics awareness week email messages so that you can register for that event on Friday. Let us emphasize again that Albany State University, along with the other 25 USG institutions and the University System Office, are this week bringing heightened awareness to the importance of an ethical culture. We share the core values of integrity, excellence, accountability, and respect. This week, we celebrate ethical awareness, but every week is Ethical Awareness Week. This concludes our event today. However, before we partake in the refreshments that are at the rear of the room, we want to make sure that we're giving special thanks to the marketing and communications team, especially Rachel Lawrence, as well as Sandy Peacock. Our mass communication team, Connie Williams, and her team, of course, Christine Jones and Auxiliary Services. Thank you so much for your unwavering support each year to help make this week a huge success. Thank you again for your attention. Thank you for your enthusiasm, and we appreciate you being here today. Thank you again.